Once there was a woman who wished for a child. She went to another place, a place some call Dream. She raised her eyes to the mountain, planted her feet on the ground, listened to the rustle of the leaves, smelt blossoms bleeding fragrance down on the wind that kissed her skin. And then words came, repeated over and over and over again until the sense leached out, but the power remained. Power the goddess heard and sent a plum blossom portent, and then sent a gift. The gift was a daughter, Hana, more beautiful than any flower, more precious than any jewel. Once there was a girl who knew that she was an answer to prayer, a miracle, a gift from the goddess of compassion herself, because her mother told her every single day she loved to hear it. Mother and daughter together planted an all year round flowering garden in thanks to the goddess for each other. But one day, the mother fell ill. One day she closed her eyes and did not open them again. And Hana's world went grey. She looked out onto that garden throughout the year as the snowdrops gave way to the plum blossoms, to the cherry blossoms, the camellias, the irises of early summer, the chrysanthemums, and then everything erupt in red maple. But it was as if everything was grey paper. And then, before a year was out, before she could draw breath, because her grandparents said it would be a fine idea, one day her father came back home with another woman. "This is my new wife, your new mother," he said. The new mother had a big smile and capable hands and absolutely no interest in frivolous flowers. A girl should be kept busy, doing useful things. And so she had Hana fetch, carry, sew, mend, iron, servant's work. She tried to bear it as best she could, with no outward show of resentment, but sometimes she failed. An eye roll here, a sigh there. But it always seemed as if the new mother was there, ready to witness those transgressions and make sure everybody else knew about it as well. Ah, Hana, now there's a one. I'm sure it's nothing to do with her late mother's parental incompetencies that she's rude and incompetent herself. She's just grieving. I'm sure we'll get along just fine in the end. Perfectly reasonable, if she'd had Hana's best interests at heart. But this is a Cinderella story. And this is a wicked stepmother. She did not. She was waiting for the seeds of divide and conquer to take root nice and firmly in fertile ground. When they did, she sent the father away on a business trip. She sent the servants off on errands, and then she called Hana to her and she said, "This is my house now, not yours. You must leave. Take her away." And that's how Hana found herself all alone at dusk on a mountainside far from home with absolutely no idea what to do. Uncontrollable tears fell. And then the shadows lengthened. The owls started hooting. And her tears dried and turned into cold sweat. Night fell. The moon rose over the mountain and cast its shadow over her. And then she did the only thing she could do. She remembered her mother. She went to another place, a place some call Dream. She fixed her eyes on the mountain, planted her feet on the ground, listened for the leaves, smelt the blossoms bleeding fragrance down on the wind that kissed her skin. Words came, repeated over and over and over and over and over again until the sense leached out, but the power remained. In other words, she prayed, and that's what the mountain heard. That's what the mountain answered. There was light. There was warmth. There was rest. A huge hand light placed on the top of Hana's head. And then there was a face, lined and craggy as the mountainside, face of an old woman. Out of the face came a voice. Here you may not stay. You must be on your way. Over the mountain, upstream of a south-flowing river, to where a plume of smoke denotes a place of welcome. Here, take this. Wear it. It will keep you safe. Remove it only when you are in a place where your voice rings true in the heart of one whose voice rings as true in yours. Now, go. Go well. Blinking. In the morning, Hana looked at the mountain's gift in her hands. A long object that looked like a piece of bark, but it wasn't a piece of bark. It was a skin, an old woman's skin, lined and craggy as the mountainside itself, with just enough room inside it for Hana. She put it on. It was soft and still like a mother's embrace. And she set off over the mountain, along that south-flowing river. The skin, as promised, kept her safe, so safe that it was as if, as an old woman, she was completely invisible. No one could see her at all. Big change for a girl, more beautiful than any flower, more precious than any jewel. But Hana bore it well, and she never forgot to give thanks to the mountain for giving her everything she had now. Then she saw the plume of smoke. She followed it, and at its source, she raised her eyes to the mountain, planted her feet, listened, and then words came. Over and over and over again until the sense leached out, but the power remained. In other words, she prayed. And that's what the young master of the house, young Takayoshi, in his apartments, heard. A voice, rich and deep as a temple bell. It drew him all the way through the house to the entrance where an old woman was standing, face lined and craggy as the mountainside, standing, asking for a job. In that voice, something shifted in him. We must hire this woman immediately. The other staff of the household were not delighted about that. No one this old could be of any help, really. But the young master gets what the young master wants. They welcomed Hana in. They gave her a job, tending the fire, an easy job, cooking the rice. And that's how Hana found herself in this new household, this new situation. She kept herself to herself, head down. And perhaps that's why she didn't notice Takayoshi hanging on her every word. Perhaps that's why she didn't notice the other servants notice that Takayoshi was hanging on her every word and wonder, what witchcraft is this that makes an old woman so attractive and interesting to such a young man? This is no ordinary old woman. She's a strangely straight back, a strange lack of good old days stories. We must watch her. Perhaps that's why she didn't see every night, after everyone had gone to bed, Takayoshi follow her outside and watch her as she raised her face to the mountain and gave thanks. Until one night, Takayoshi, in his usual place, saw her not only raise her face, but reach inside it and pull the skin right down. Then she heard him gasp. First, a gasp of fear, but then when he saw what was underneath, a gasp of another kind entirely. He rushed over. He took her by the hands. I knew it. You are an angel in disguise sent to me by the gods. Take off that skin. Take my hand. Take my heart. I am yours. Two pairs of bright young eyes saw each other for the first time. But Hana, this is my home, this skin. to be removed only when I am in a place where my voice rings true in the heart of one whose voice rings as true in mine. If that is you, if that is your voice, you will marry me as I am in this skin. The next morning, early the next morning, Takayoshi went to his parents' apartments and told them that he wanted to marry the old woman who tends the fire in the household, or spend the rest of his life as a monk. What? You must be joking. That woman, she's a servant, and what's more, she's twice our age, let alone yours. Do you know what you're saying? You must be joking. Tell us you're joking. You're not joking. Fine. Have it your way. Marry this woman. You'll regret it. And so, with his parents' consent, if not their blessing, Takayoshi went to Hana, took her by the hand and proposed marriage to her in the old woman's skin, and she said yes. On the wedding day, an awkward wedding day with uneasy guests and unhappy parents, Hana lifted her veil, and there was not an old woman, but a young one, about exactly the same age as Takayoshi. Unease turned to celebration. The parents were so relieved that when Hana insisted on planting an all-year-round flowering garden in thanks to the mountain for sending her there, all over their farmland, they did not complain. So relieved that when Hana insisted that the old woman of the mountain lay at the head of all the deities on the family shrine, they were fine with that too. And then, some time later, when it was discovered that her family were of a higher social status than his, and so he would be taking her name and not she his, they were fine with that too. Sometime later, Hana's father found her. The new mother ran away before Hana could forgive her, which she would have done. And the two, husband and wife, raised their faces to the mountain in gratitude, for now they'd found home in each other.